Hey, good afternoon to you. It's now 4:06 News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up top of the next hour, E.J. Antoni, the in-house economist for this fine program. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. The drama in the Oval Office today wasn't the only big Oval Office exchange this week. In fact, yesterday, President Trump asked Vice President J.D. Vance to speak up as they were visited by the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. And J.D., Vice President Vance, reiterated a point that he made recently in Europe that there's way too many violations of civil liberties and free speech going on, including in the United Kingdom. An interesting state visit yesterday.
I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
He's very proud of their history. What he doesn't mention is that they're arresting people for praying in the silence of their own craniums, standing outside of abortion mills. Joining us now is David Strom. He's an associate editor over at HotAir and a fantastic guest. David, good to have you back with us, sir.
Hey, Vince. Wow, what a week.
I know. And I'm sure you're champing at the bit to talk about the Zelensky exchange. We can get to that, but I want to start with the picture on free speech, though. Because Europe really is threatening it. What does that look like?
Oh, my gosh. This is one of the issues on which I have the most passion. I mean, enough passion. I've been a lifelong supporter of Nato, but unless things change, I would support pulling out because I supported Nato because it's a Western power and part of the free world, and it is no longer free. You could get arrested for memes. UK police officers talk about extraditing American citizens, including Elon Musk, for things they say online. There are nighttime raids on people for, just saying something that the government doesn't like. It's insane.
And, you heard in that exchange right there that J.D. Vance is concerned about the implications of European laws on American speech, and not just for extradition, which is crazy, but also because the EU and these other European countries, they keep trying to pass laws that constrain social media companies dramatically. And some of these social media companies, it has spillover effects on American citizens. And American lefties have been advocating for these free speech infringements overseas because they see they can circumvent the First Amendment here by doing that.
Oh, more than advocating, USAID was funding these censorship organizations. I mean, I can tell you directly from my own experience that organizations that were funded by USAID, that goes to Great Britain, then put out alerts to advertisers not to advertise on certain platforms, including HotAir. That directly costs us an enormous amount of money. Every once in a while we get a notification that, your post has been deboosted on Google or Facebook or, it's just the whole point is to drive us out of business.
Yes.
And so, and it was all supported by the Biden administration. I mean, I don't know if people remember this, but the European Union threatened X, Twitter, with a fine of 6% of their global revenues and SpaceX and Tesla if they allowed President Trump to have his spaces on X with Elon Musk. I mean, they sent a letter saying that. I mean, so they directly interfered. Now, I mean, Elon Musk told him, that ain't happening.
Right.
But they tried to silence the once and future president of the United States. I mean, it's insane. And I look at that and say, well, you're declaring that you're an enemy of the American Constitution. Why should I be paying for, your defense when you turn around and try to take away the freedoms of Americans? It's insane.
Right. And for many years, these multinational organizations have been selling themselves as representing humanity broadly. We're all just one people, and so we shouldn't have borders or dissent. Apparently, that's they're trying to erase sovereignty and then use that centralized power to prevent people from issuing dissenting opinions that work against the true global elite.
Yeah, well, I made a joke in a piece that I wrote today that this is worse than the fever dreams of the most crazy right wingers in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, where they saw communists around every third bush, and if you go to Europe, it's around every bush. They are directly attacking U.S. freedoms. I mean, Apple has turned off all their encryption in the UK because the UK demanded backdoors into their iCloud servers, which, by the way, would have given them access to your iCloud stuff, mine, your text messages, all your data. And so Apple just said, no, we're not going to do that. So they just they're turning off iCloud in Great Britain. They're telling people, take your stuff off our servers because we're not going to submit to this tyrannical, spy state stuff.
Amazing. I saw earlier this week, speaking of tech companies and tech billionaires, you see Jeff Bezos in the Washington Post, how he changed the op-ed page there. And it caused all this chaos. The editor of the op-ed page gone. He quit, David Shipley. He's like, I'm not participating in this. Bezos claims that he wants the Washington Post's editorial page to advance two causes specifically. And if you work against this cause, you're not welcome at the Washington Post. They can write it somewhere else. He says, quote, personal liberties and free markets. Personal liberties and free markets. I got to be honest, David Strom, I smell a rat. I smell a rat in this. And the rat I smell is that Bezos makes all of his money from Amazon. And he doesn't want President Trump imposing tariffs of any kind, including completely justified retaliatory tariffs, on China. So now he's a free markets guy. Am I missing something?
I don't know. I mean, you don't get to be one of the richest men on earth, top 1, 2, 3, without being very strategic. So, clearly, at least some of this has to do with sucking up to Trump. I mean, there's no question about it. But some of it might be something very simple, which is the Washington Post is failing. I mean, they are losing subscribers at an accelerating pace. I mean, they're well under one half of where they were just a few years ago. And, they're losing money hand over fist. It was a terrible investment for him. So, it could be that he also thinks, well, maybe I'll get some readers this way, being totally left.
And that whole personal liberties thing will be put to the test during the next pandemic. We'll see what the editorial page has to say about forced jabs and whether or not you can keep your job. We'll see. Okay, so Zelensky today. Vladimir Zelensky just showed up to the Oval Office in the last few hours. And I started the show today by warning people that if you only see the clips of J.D. Vance and President Trump giving Zelensky the beatdown today, you didn't see the full context. And the full context is a long meeting where Zelensky is going out of his way to insult his hosts and suggesting and being patronizing to the vice president who said that we need to seek a diplomatic end to the war. He implied that President Trump had failed Ukraine by not coming in when he was in office the first time to intervene in the wake of the invasion of Crimea, which happened under Obama. He suggested that if U.S. aid to Ukraine ceases, that it's going to result in Russia invading us by crossing the Pacific Ocean or something. It was all so crazy. What did you make of today's scene in the Oval Office?
Well, the funny thing is that what you just said is exactly the email exchange I've had with my father, who's a liberal, and he's incensed at Trump And so, Trump can be a jerk. So I went and I watched the 47 minutes, and Zelensky was insulting. He, basically demanded that the United States, take Ukraine back for him. That he isn't going to concede anything. He wants the status quo before 2014. So you're talking about all the way back to 10 years ago under Barack Obama. And if we aren't doing that, then, we're abandoning freedom in Europe. I mean, it was just absolutely insane. And I went in there actually quite open-minded because, Trump can be a jerk. It's part of his persona, and maybe he went a little too far. But no, I mean, I actually left watching the press conference thinking, Zelensky is, deranged. That's how he looked to me. I mean, you also got to watch his body language. I mean, he hates Trump, and he made it very clear. Both Trump and J.D. Vance. I mean, he was just absolutely wound up, and his facial expressions. I mean, you could tell I'm a little passionate about this because right now the Pravda media is out there spinning this as Trump going, he's going full Putin and da 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 da, and it was just insane.
It was insane. The media reaction to it is insane. It's a wild scene to see because we're not accustomed to it. But it's also not what they teach at Georgetown. It's not what they teach at Harvard or Princeton or Columbia or any of these lauded schools of diplomacy and the way you're supposed to handle all of this stuff. But how has that worked out for the rest of us over time? Not very well, actually. We keep getting sucked into all sorts of quagmires. There have been a lot of deaths as a result of all of this, and not a lot of traction in a direction that actually helps the United States of America. And President Trump was elected on ending this. This is not some sort of sneak attack. It's not something he kept from you. He ran on this issue. And here he is talking to one of the key stakeholders in the whole thing and saying, look, we've been financing your entire side of the war. At this point, you have to play ball with us to figure out how to bring this to an end. Zelensky just stubbornly trying to insult his host today, and that did not go well for him. He was ejected from the White House without any deal signed.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, but I will tell you, I'll give you an insight, again, from this email exchange with my father of how people on the left look at this. The last thing my father said was, Trump should have been thanking Zelensky for saving Western civilization. He should have been grateful. And, that is how many people on the left view this. They always view the United States as the bad guy. They view us as the financier for everybody else in the world. I mean, the United States spends 65% of all the military spending in NATO, and we're supposed to kiss their feet and let them censor American people and lecture us. And it's just appalling. And this idea that we should thank Vladimir Zelensky, that's insane.
It is insane. And by the way, that viewpoint that you just were talking about, that the left holds, which is that somehow Zelensky is the leader of the free world. That's literally what Adam Schiff tweeted this morning. He wrote, "Today there will be a critical meeting in the White House with the leader of the free world. Donald Trump will also be there," he wrote.
Yeah.
And which is are you mentally ill?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's assume that you think Donald Trump is a jerk and that he was going to behave badly and everything else. The one thing is if you go in kicking him and insulting him, it's going to turn out badly for you. But he is president of the United States. You don't do that.
But let me put a finer point on this. I'm seeing a lot of reaction to this today. You got to suck up to Trump's ego. You have to treat it's about how Trump feels. No, I don't think people if that's your reaction to this, you're missing the point. This is Zelensky's attitude, not towards Trump particularly, is towards America broadly.
Yeah.
And Trump is our vehicle for handling all of this. And if you're going to treat America like crap, well, then expect to be defenestrated from the White House.
This was in the Oval Office, in public, in front of his cabinet, and in front of the media. and he's insulting the President of the United States in the Oval Office. This isn't about ego.
I know.
This is about who, has the power and who is coming with hat in hand. And, you just don't insult the people that you are asking for hundreds of billions of dollars from.
Yeah. Yeah. And word to the wise, if you're going to insult America, don't do it in front of both President Trump and Vice President Vance in the same exact room. It's not going to work. David Strom, you're the best. Thank you, sir. Always good to talk to you.
I could go on for hours on this one.
You definitely could. Thank you, David.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. David Strom with Hot Air. It's 4:22 now.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
All right, coming up, Ben Domenech over at The Spectator. He had an interview with President Trump yesterday, an hour long in the Oval Office. He asked him, hey, who left the cocaine in the White House? President Trump's answer coming up, your phone calls ahead. A lot more to get to as the Vince Coglianese Show continues right here on WMAL.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Hey, good afternoon to you. It is 4:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, our economist E.J. Antoni joins us at 5 o'clock. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Let's see. Oh, we got a good call coming in. Jay is calling in from Maryland, line 7. Jay, always good calls. Jay, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello.
Yeah, this is Jay calling. So I'm not on the left. I, vote for Trump all three times. Very conservative. But what I'm very concerned is the press right now, kind of the right-leaning press, let's put it that way, is not being critical at all about any of the decisions that are being made in the government by this administration. Nobody's perfect. People make mistakes.
None of them?
I haven't really heard anything. I've heard just adulation and praise. I have not heard any criticisms.
So what do you think needs to be more criticized? Is there if you could pick something in this just over a month of President Trump's 47th presidency, you voted for him 3 times. What don't you like?
The big thing is basically the firing of the people in the government who are on probationary status.
Yeah.
Including like the CDC, epidemiologists, the park rangers, all these people just because they're easy targets were eliminated.
Easier to fire. It's a feature of the law that if you're there longer than a year, if you're out of the probationary period, it's more difficult to fire you. So they're going after the probationary guys because they want to bring down the size of the government by 10%. They're doing everything they can to get that number down.
Yeah, but it needs to be more surgical, more thought out. This is slash and burn, and I've personally seen situations where this is really causing dangerous situations and kind of unnecessary. I don't think it's necessary to do it this way.
Well, getting the government down to size is definitely necessary. I mean, we're in a out of control debt situation, and it's totally unsustainable to have that many federal employees. We have 3 million federal employees right now, and each one of them. We'll talk to E.J. Antoni coming up, but he's discovered that it costs 80 private sector workers. It takes 80 private sector workers to support one federal employee's salary and benefits. 80. It's totally unsustainable. So we've got to bring it down to size. And President Trump is doing everything he can to achieve that. Now, to your original point, which is that you're not hearing enough criticism out of the conservative press. Well, one, President Trump, let's be honest, is having a pretty successful start to this presidency. I've been talking about it with some of our guests, but a very focused, determined, and efficient start to this presidency. The other piece is, I see conservatives debate all the time all of these issues, and we talk about them. In fact, yesterday, remember the Jeffrey Epstein story, all these Epstein files that we were promised, and then it comes out, it was actually a dud. yesterday. And then you had Trump people beginning to explain, well, yeah, because the FBI is working against us. But a lot of dissatisfaction that we didn't get more yesterday. And that nobody made a secret of that. People didn't like that. There's been real debates about the H-1B visa programs and the extent to which we should even have those. There's real debates on the right about in vitro fertilization and just dispensing with human bodies and whether or not we should have full-throated support with that for that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of meaningful debates happening on the right, and they're far more constructive than the ones the left is constantly trying to pull us into, Jay.
Yeah, well, I don't listen to the left. So, and I'm able to listen to, a little bit of your shows each day. But from what I've heard, it's like, wow.
Well, because things are going well, honestly. And here's the thing, Jay, you're allowed to enjoy it. You don't always have to find the turd in the punch bowl. It's okay occasionally to enjoy it a little bit.
All right. As long as you guys, critically, keep on top of it, because we depend on the press.
Amen.
We depend on you guys. So.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for the call. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see here. I've got the audio of President Trump. He was asked about the cocaine in the White House yesterday by Ben Domenech. Here's the answer that President Trump gave.
Who actually left the cocaine in the White House?
What?
Who left the cocaine in the White House?
Oh. Well, either Joe or Hunter. Could be Joe, too. Okay? So that was such a terrible thing because, those bins are very loaded up with, they're not clean. Mm-hmm. And they have hundreds and even thousands of fingerprints. And when they went to look...
These are the lockers that people leave stuff in when they go to the West Wing.
Get it. It was absolutely stone cold wiped dry. You know that, right?
See, well, because when I was at Bush, I was briefly,
Oh, I didn't realize that. Maybe I missed this when it originally came out. So what President Trump is describing is that what they went to check for the evidence, they went to brush for fingerprints and figure out, okay, who left this cocaine. He says that the crime scene had been manipulated, that it had been wiped dry. It had been, in Hillary's terms, bleach bitted. That's kind of a fascinating detail. I didn't realize that. Yeah, the scene was all cleaned up.
Right. You know that, right?
See, well, because when I was at Bush, I was briefly, a Bush speechwriter and staff, person, and so I knew exactly what they were talking about. And I was like, those things are filthy.
They're filthy, and there were fingerprints. If you went to one, maybe we're cleaner, but if you went to one at any time, you would see hundreds. Everybody in there would leave a finger. Yeah. When they went in, that thing was wiped out with the strongest form of alcohol.
That's hilarious. Well, not hilarious.
By the way,
it's sad.
And I have to tell you, I think I'm going to look into that because it was bad stuff happened there.
One of the things that...
bad stuff happened there. Yeah, cocaine was left in the White House. And remember, the little investigation that the Secret Service did, they're like, oh, we couldn't figure it out. Then they destroyed the cocaine. Remember that? They destroyed the evidence that they had, this baggie of cocaine. They just destroyed it. They're like, well, I guess that's it. And I have to say on this this stuff about Epstein, you put some thought into this. If the whole point was that the FBI is in on some sort of cover up here, which of course we've learned that they had thousands of pages of documents that they refused to give the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. They were supposed to give them all by 8 o'clock this morning. I haven't seen an update on whether that occurred. But if they just hadn't turned over everything, if the point is a cover-up, why would you keep the documents anywhere? Right? If the entire point, and I want to extend this out to things like JFK and his assassination, and RFK's assassination, and MLK's assassination. If the government is covering up the details, preventing the American people from knowing, wouldn't the absolute best way to cover it up to destroy the evidence? So they've subverted our system. They were involved in something completely lawless, but they did the paperwork the right way and they locked it away somewhere. I don't know. I guess just worth keeping in mind as we await all sorts of documents. President Trump has ordered the declassification of everything. And supposedly there are some meaningful documents from the JFK era, the assassination, that might illuminate things for us. President Trump has talked in interviews before Kash Patel, now the director of the FBI, has talked in interviews before, indicating that they've seen documents that the public would be pretty shocked by when we do see them. So I guess in that sense, the documents exist. But, you do wonder, it's like, what kind of cover-up was it? Like, so they're, one would assume that they would literally destroy the evidence of the crime if the point was to cover it up, not just keep it around in some locker that people didn't know existed or something. Yeah. All right. So President Trump says he's going to dig into the cocaine at the White House. That seems worth doing. We got a lot going on here. Dave is calling in from Alexandria on line 9, wants to weigh in on the big battle today between Vladimir Zelensky, President Trump, and Vice President Vance. Hey, Dave. Hello, Dave. Is Dave there? Dave is not there.
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
Hello.
Hey, Dave.
Hi. I actually called the Ukrainian embassy, and I told them that what's happening, Putin's laughing, and he's going to start a new invasion and take as much land as he can so that they'll have very tiny bit of land left. And,
what's that?
They're
I'm having trouble understanding the point you're making. You're saying Putin's going to further his invasion into Ukraine now, is what you're saying?
Yeah, he'll seize the opportunity to take more land from Ukraine. And when they finally surrender, then, and he's never going to accept NATO membership of Ukraine unless he's a member of NATO.
Of course.
He asked
Why would he?
He asked to be part of NATO, and the head of NATO in Europe wouldn't say yes.
Got it.
So maybe Trump should consider that.
Yeah, Europe has to pony up more. And in fact, yesterday, the UK Prime Minister came with that obligation as one of his offerings as he met with President Trump. They're going to spend a lot more on defense now, or at least that's what he says, because they have to, because we've been shouldering the entire burden. And Europe, they make all these noises about, this is really important for Europe. Okay, prove it. Increase your defense spending, which President Trump has been on them for years about. Thank you, Dave. Let me see. I also have William calling in from Silver Spring, Maryland on line 4. William, you are on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Yeah, Vince, you got me?
Yes, sir. I hear you.
Vince, I can't believe that no one has brought this up, even in the left-wing media. This guy Zelensky shows up at the White House of the United States dressed like he's going to a bar, and then he has the gall to say that U.S. is protected by oceans. Does he not remember that Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and that the Nazis were sinking ships in the Atlantic, and that thousands of American boys' graves are in Normandy to protect guys like him?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's not like we haven't been to war. Yeah. And
everybody needs to galvanize on Trump now. Exactly.
And he's talking to a guy who's been to war. He was talking to J.D. Vance there in the Oval Office. That's exactly right. And he was sitting there and these lectures about you have it so good, you're protected by oceans. First of all, what in the world are you doing?
Tell this guy to go to Normandy and visit the graves.
Yes,
of
indeed.
American boys.
Yes, indeed. I saw somebody point out earlier, I don't know, I'm trying to remember the context of the debate, but they were saying something like, well, did America ever pay France back for its help during the Revolutionary War?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. In fact, what you just referenced, I think Normandy might be a good place to start with all of that.
Exactly. It's sickening to me.
Yeah, big time. Hey, thank you very much, William. Good call. Let us see here. Okay. We'll get back to this in a moment. I know we got a lot more Zelensky stuff coming up. I also have to talk to E.J. Antoni in a moment. But boy, what's Zelensky going to do? Is he going to come back and actually sign a deal, or is the Ukrainians going to finally replace the guy? Let's put in somebody else who can bring about a peace and save some lives in Ukraine. That might be important. Somebody who can work with President Trump. That would be very important. Also, we got to get to this more details about the Epstein stuff. And the reality is that you have the deep state working to sabotage President Trump again. Again, this is not, we saw it happen in the 45th presidency. You are now seeing the makings of it right now in the 47th. As you have FBI officials and CIA officials, intel community people who are working to subvert President Trump's presidency now. I've got all the details on that Stay with us. It's 449 WMAL.
WMAL, making sense of the border, because laws either matter or they don't. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Oh, this is funny. Apparently, John Bolton, the walrus himself, has been on MSNBC today saying that Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz need to resign. This is the moment. Do it now. This is it. Get out now while you have a chance. How about no? How about shut up? How about that? Let's see here. I've got Mark calling in from Norfolk, Virginia on line 8. Hello, Mark. You are on the Vince Coglianese Show, sir.
Hello, Vince. Happy Friday.
Likewise.
Hey, so I want to say I'm proud of our president and vice president. They stood up to somebody that mistakenly thought he was talking to a couple of chumps. Talking to the president of the United States of America. I mean, how stupid could a person be to walk into the White House, have a deal on the table for peace, and blow it? Unbelievable.
Yeah, and you're talking to your primary benefactor. The whole reason, I mean, you're coming back again, hat in hand, and say, give us more. And is that normally how you treat the people who've been sustaining your mission for all of these years? And it's not been good for Ukrainians. Millions of casualties. This thing needs to end. And that's what President Trump was elected on, one of many reasons. And he's trying to bring that about right now. And Zelensky is fighting tooth and nail to prevent it from occurring.
I think that Zelensky, is probably going to have to go back to the White House and ask for that big salt shaker that they have down in the Navy dining facility so that he can put it on that crow that he's going to have to eat. Because he ain't getting away with talking to anybody in the White House and not eating some crow now.
Yeah, no, you're right. He will have to do that. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that call. I've got Joe calling in from Woodbridge, Virginia, line 9. Joe, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Good to talk to you.
You too.
Hey, before I get to my main point, let me just give a shout-out to the Vice President. Let me say Semper Fi, because he is a true Marine. I'm so glad that Donald Trump finally has a Vice President that has his back. So thank you, J.D. Vance. And second thing I want to say is I listened to that whole news conference live, and it was clear to me from the get-go that Zelensky was not there to sign a mineral deal. He was there to lecture Trump and use the American media to insert what he wants in the negotiation process. And so, he got, do stupid things and you get stupid, responses. And he got exactly what he asked for. And if I was President Trump, I'd call up Elon Musk and I'd have him cut off Starlink for about the next week or a month, just to make the Ukrainians think about what Zelensky did and what it would be like to prosecute that war without U.S. support.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing right now, actually, as you speak, that the Washington Post is reporting that this is according to John Hudson, a reporter there, the Trump administration is considering ending all ongoing shipments of military aid to Ukraine in response to Zelensky's remarks in the Oval Office on Friday and his perceived intransigence in the peace process, per senior administration officials. So in other words, if the parties involved aren't going to work towards a peace, why are we going to keep sustaining the war?
Yeah, I'm all for that. And, last thing is to President Zelensky, next time you show up at our White House and talk to our president in the Oval Office, put on a damn suit and tie.
Yeah.
You look like a clown.
Protocol means everything. It's entirely appropriate, and you should follow it no matter what country you go to. It's just a sign of respect, and it's disrespectful to show up the way he did. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right about that. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that call, Joe in Woodbridge. And he's right about Vice President Vance, too. The wisdom of choosing that Marine to join the White House, to join President Trump here. It's been great. And I said it earlier, not on this air, I just said it to a friend. I was like, Mike Pence would never. Could you imagine? Can you imagine if Mike Pence was sitting on that couch? What that conversation would be like? I think he'd just be sitting there staring at everything, trying to figure out, okay, what do I do now? Not Vice President Vance. He went in. He went in today. The two of them, both him and President Trump, said, yeah, we're not going to play this game. Not here. Coming up, E.J. Antoni, the economist, is with us. Stay with us on the Vince Coglianese Show.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.